First on our item is review and approve the minutes from September 2024.
Which are on the back of your agenda.
Bam.
I'll give you guys a few minutes because I did not.
I think Garrett sent them to us, didn't he?
Trails.
Oh, that was the trails. Get away both of these facade applications were approved by the select board. Yeah. Yes. We have a motion from Doug. Do I hear a second? We have a second from Andy. Any discussion? And all those in favor? And we'll move on to item number 3. Item number 3, update on affordable housing development off of Route 202.
Yes, okay, so,
Pretty exciting.
yes, so I think, we talked back in May, about Joe Kroll, who is working to put affordable housing right at the beginning of Main Street. When you get off 202, there is a subdivision that's approved. And I believe the road is called Sandy Drive. I don't think there's actually a road there right now, but that's what it's referred as. And Joe has been round and round about what he was going to do, but he knew he wanted to do affordable housing, and was trying to figure out the configuration. I did let him know back in May about the process for if he were looking for a credit enhancement agreement, what that process was in Monmouth, specifically that I would say that this municipal process is a bigger hurdle than most, because in order to make an amendment to a TIF district, which this property is in that he's developing, you have to have an election. You know, that's how you approve items in the town. So, you know, that requires a way longer lead time and a special election if it doesn't fall within the time frame of a regular election for the municipality. And I had let him know that and asked him to kind of let us know what he was going to need and when. So he did get back to us last week. Justin and I both met with him, and he is planning to do homes. The first part of this development is going to be actually single-family homes, a total of 14. 9 of them are going to be market rate, and 5 of them are going to be affordable, based on the criteria from Maine Housing. And he's doing that because he is going after one of their rural affordable loan programs. And one of the ways this has become a competitive process. In the past, developers could just kind of apply for this and the money was there, but the funds have shrunk for this. And so they're doing an application process. And one of the ways to get points on the application process is to show that you have other funding sources. In this case, it would be the credit enhancement agreement from the town. I had explained to him again that there are 2 types of TIF districts. There are the municipal TIF districts, which are kind of what people think of. They're basically for businesses to, you know, when a business is coming into town, you'd put a TIF district down to capture that value. You can also capture value for apartments because the state considers an apartment unit a business. someone's holding on to the property and renting it out, that's considered a business. What they don't consider applicable in economic development TIF district are single-family homes that are being sold off and condos that are being sold off. So anything that's being sold to an individual doesn't count or can't be, doesn't qualify for a credit enhancement agreement. So I talked to Justin about this. And what we might be able to do to make this happen. We looked at ARPA funds and we looked at the idea of trying to amend this district in time for his application, which is due January 15th. And neither, Ken's grinning, neither of these things are gonna happen before January 15th. So it's really unfortunate. I would say that in other municipalities that have a different style of government, a select board would be able to approve the amendment and get it into the state for an approval, but Monmouth is just not that type of development, so. And Justin did say that there are some ARPA funds that aren't accounted for, which would be allowed to be applied to this type of project. But again, in order to do that, you need an election. You need to vote on them in an election format. So it's really limiting in terms of being able to turn things around quickly, I guess I would say. So I just wanted to let you know about that update. He is still going to go forward with the
You just won't have.
process. He just won't have as many points, which again, in the competitive process is really unfortunate. I am hoping though, this is the first phase of his project. The second phase, if he's staying consistent with what he talked about, is going to be apartments. Which again, if this were apartments first, it would be very easy to provide him with a credit enhancement
Sure.
agreement. The select board just needs to vote on it. It goes.
And it doesn't cost us anything, really.
Right. Or if you can line this up with.
50%.
Right, exactly. Yes, in that sense, it doesn't cost anything to the town in terms of, losing out on anything. You're basically investing in the project instead of having a tax shift happen. So, yeah.
I see not doing the apartments first then.
This application is specifically for single-family homes, and that's what's coming up now. And so that's what he wanted to do first.
Okay. And is there construction activity going on down there?
I think he's doing some, I
He's
think he
doing
is
some road
starting to do,
building. Yeah.
he's starting to do some work
Yeah, I
already.
saw some
So-
bulldozers and they're moving around.
So the good thing sounds like he's going to do it no matter what. It's just gonna be a little more difficult to do. So we can keep our fingers crossed about that. And I was talking to his finance person. He suggested that maybe even a letter from the town of support for the project. If that's something we wanted to recommend to the select board, just to, provide a letter of support, which I can certainly draft. I mean, we have a couple months to do that and figure out what, Maine Housing likes to see, that there is buy-in from the town or support from the town when they award these types of.
So let me understand the scope of the project. A single family home, 9 at market rate, 5 at affordable. Affordable defined as some percentage of the median income.
Right. Yeah, whatever
Okay.
that.
Whatever that.
Yeah.
Multiplier is. And he's applying through Maine Housing for financing. So he's gonna get some subsidized financing if he's successful.
Right.
And that's why he can afford to do the affordable ones. As part of the portfolio. And I'm assuming he's gonna sell them, not rent them?
Right, yeah, he's
Okay.
selling them. That was the unfortunate, I guess,
Right.
part of this is that he was selling. He
Right.
was selling, and that
And-
could be why he's going first with these also, so he can get
Yeah.
funds to
Well,
kind of do the
they're
next
selling, right?
round.
Right, and when he sells them to affordable qualified people, how does that work? Do they assume the main housing note? How does that?
There's a bunch of criteria, including, they have to qualify within the income
Income range,
guidelines.
right.
And then there's also, a stipulation that you can't sell the house. If these people decided to sell their home, they have to keep it at a affordable house. They couldn't just go and sell it at market rate.
So they can't,
levels.
there's a limit to how much they can profit off of
Right.
the appreciation of the
Right.
property.
Right, and those are the main criteria, and there's a covenant that's in place for a certain number of years, and
Right.
at some point that goes away.
Like
but
20 years later. or
I think
something.
so. I think it's 20 or 30 years later, actually. So,
So it might be, I think we should I mean, it seems to me, and my colleagues here can correct me if I'm out of place, but it seems to me like there is definitely an appetite from the community for single-family home development, especially if a good portion of them are set aside for affordable type reservation.
And it's within the growth area too, so. it's
Within the
consistent with
growth
comp
area.
plan.
Presumably, it would connect to the sewer system, be required to connect to the sewer system. So we would be spreading any overhead costs of the sewer system, more thinly over all of the users of the sewer system. And, I mean, one question, I don't know that it's relevant to, what I would propose here tonight, but one question I would have for the developer, is he planning to connect to the water system? The Water Association pipe is right there on Main Street.
I assume so. I think that's what Joel said.
Joel mentioned that
We had a conservation commission meeting this morning, and I believe that
he was talking about that.
Yeah.
So that would also then help the Water Association spread overhead costs as well. So any water association or sewer system, sanitary district user would certainly see some cost differences as a result of having additional units on the system.
What would be, so I guess this is, I guess I'm confused. What would be an appropriate timeline from, I'm kind of reflecting on how we're not able to help, even if there are TIF funds or whatever that we could use for credit enhancement agreement, whichever. What would be the appropriate timeline to communicate to these developers? Because it seems like who came in, Wishrock came in last year and his was a timeline that was accelerated. So it just seems like they're not necessarily aware of the constraints that we're under. And they come to us and we have these emergency meetings, but what can we do?
yeah, what the town has to do is call a special election, which I believe is a 60-day timeline. So to start, you're already 2 months out from when you can approve the TIF application. In other municipalities, that might take, you could probably get it through in a month, but we start with the 2-month lead time, and then before that, going in front of the select board, getting it approved to be put on the ballot. So it's
So
just,
at
it's
least-
backed up by 2 months.
But.
And the additional expense
Yeah,
of running,
Running an election.
administering an election.
right.
And I think if we had a town council form of municipal government where the town council is the decision-making is the legislative branch, then we wouldn't have to have an election. We could just,
But that's probably a change to what, the town charter or?
yeah, it would be, there's a whole thing,
Right.
right? If you have to go to the legislature to change your town charter and
So I think what I'm saying
develop
is
consensus among the
when we
community.
communicate with these developers, we should tell them right away that Sorry, you're like.
Three months in advance, give us
Yeah.
at least 90 days, at minimum 90 days,
Yeah, minimum.
absolute minimum. I mean, it may be possible if, I mean, anytime there's an election, we have to publish the ballot 60 days in advance.
So it's probably longer than that.
So,
I'm saying it's probably 6 months is more than
Yeah.
appropriate.
I'm really thinking 4 to 5 months, because again, I mean, then, not to mention, you also have to put together the application, which is a whole, you know, I mean, it's a lot of getting information from the client, you know, and from the assessor, and putting that all together in the application is sometimes not, as easy as you might think, as easy as you might think it is. So, yeah, it really does slow things down. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the nature of Monmouth, but,
it's the nature of the select board.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
this form of municipal government.
Right.
Having a select board be the executive branch and having the voters be the legislative branch.
Well, I mean, with a developer like this, I mean, do they not realize that it just takes longer in towns like this? Cause they're used to doing things in other towns. Somebody said that this guy is from Gardner.
yeah. I mean, he's, I don't know how much development he's done or asking for credit enhancement agreements, but I would say generally, unless a developer has even approaching a town for the first or second time, they just don't understand that the municipal process is not like a business transaction. It's just how it is. They don't get that. You know, people who are affordable housing developers and have done this a lot, typically understand that better. But even now, usually affordable housing developments have been in more dense areas, like urban areas. These programs that Maine Housing is pushing out now, which are rural affordable housing, which has completely different criteria, is having you go to Monmouth and Reedfield and trying to engage that municipal government that way, and just, it's even slower.
Maybe, does Maine Housing not have an understanding of how slowly rural municipal governments are gonna work? Maybe, I mean,
Very,
when they're
very
setting up their
possible.
programs, maybe they ought to be saying, oh yeah, you need to, you know, we'll give you the money, but in 9 months, so go now. And start asking questions in rural Maine, because
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
a select board in rural Maine is pretty typical.
Where does Maine Housing, is that funded strictly to the state government or they
Yeah.
get federal?
Well, I mean, yeah, the state, there's a match.
Yeah, I think there's both.
State administers HUD funds.
So, with that said, his financer still feels that he has a very strong application, so we can just keep our fingers crossed
Okay.
that the 3 points from a credit enhancement agreement that he would have gotten won't be the deciding factor on his
Yeah.
application.
And I would certainly be willing to entertain a motion if one of my colleagues wanted to make it, that we recommend to the select board that a letter of support be written by the town manager to say, you know, we're in favor of this type of development, and that, you know, given enough time, we would certainly entertain.
I'll make a motion to, the select board, write a letter in support.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Doug and a second by Andy to recommend to the select board that they ask the town manager to write a letter of support, which you can draft.
Has it, I guess that's just discussion, these are all approved? This is already approved with the town or?
Planning board, you mean?
Yeah, or wherever it needs to be?
I think it is. I think it is. He was going in front of the planning board to add a couple of lots to it, but the subdivision was already
Yeah,
approved.
so the subdivision
Way
is on the
back.
books, just never built.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess I'd like to see it before make a motion to,
See the plan?
Yeah, just to get an idea, I don't know, like, or not, I don't know. I guess if I look at it, it's just look at a bunch of roads, but.
All right, how about this? How about, we could say that the motion could include the provision that that a copy of the plan be sent along with our recommendation to the select board. So the select board would get a copy of the plan.
I think it's probably best practice just to us look at the plan.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, I guess I just, it seems like it checks a lot of boxes in terms of, affordable housing. It's in the growth area. Like, I don't know.
And I can show you
Hopefully in the
this. I
second
mean,
phase, there will be apartments.
Okay.
I don't
We
have,
have a plan.
Oh,
I don't
there.
have the plan. I don't have the plan.
Oh.
This is the GIS map of the area. So this is 202, this is Main Street, and this approved development is between two houses, there would be a road that goes down in here and comes out on Academy Road. So it's kind of a loop. And then the lots are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 along the back. I don't know where the other 5 are, but that's the area that he's purchased and is working on currently.
What size are the lots roughly?
About an acre.
Monmouth has a minimum 1 acre lot requirement.
It was smaller if you were in the growth area.
Well, you can have multifamily.
Is that the difference?
I think they allow for a bonus in I'd have to go look at the comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, I'd have to go look at the, what's the name of that document?
Land use ordinance or the?
Yeah.
I thought it was smaller than that, but anyway, yeah,
Yeah, but it's a certain geographical area in the downtown
yeah.
area. Development ordinance, comprehensive development ordinance.
Yeah.
Allows for bonus. Reduction
Yeah,
within the downtown area. And there's a definition of downtown. I don't think that this is that.
okay, specifically more like where we are potentially downtown. The lots can be extra small. They already are extra small.
Yeah. And you could do it's easier to do multifamily stuff.
Yeah.
So what I can do is reach out to Joe and just ask him to send us, or even check with the who is it at the town office? Code enforcement to see if they have plans and send them out to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Isabel is the new town planner. I don't know if she would have it.
And perhaps we could, so that we don't have to meet again between now and January, whenever that this deadline is, that we could just make our recommendation contingent on the inclusion of a plan.
Yeah.
You comfortable with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine if we wait till we get the plan and we could just. I don't know, can we just say that we're good with it via email sometime between now and then, or do you wanna?
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine, yeah.
I think we're all pretty good at responding to email, I think, mostly.
All right. So then what's this motion sound like?
Motion contingent upon reviewing the plan, we will vote via email to recommend sending the select board a letter.
Okay, so that sounds like a friendly amendment. You okay with that?
Oh, yes.
Having made the motion? Yep. Okay, and
Got it.
when is the select board meet? In December?
Not right away, I think we're gonna skip our meeting right on next Wednesday.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know, I haven't heard, but I'm assuming that's from what I've heard.
okay, because we don't have a whole lot.
Well, I don't know just the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. We did discuss that at our last meeting. So we'll be meeting 2 Wednesdays following the day before Thanksgiving.
We won't be meeting on the 27th. That would mean 11th.
All right.
December.
So then we would need to, we would need to conclude all of that via email prior to that meeting, because I'm not. Because if, December, we're not gonna be meeting, the following Wednesday would be December 25th. I don't think we'll be meeting that Wednesday either. So the select board would need to
Got it.
make the recommendation by the 11th.
Perfect.
Okay,
Great. Okay, so that's,
let's vote on the motion.
oh yeah, oh, yep, sorry.
All those in favor? Got it? Okay, motion passes.
Great. All right, we're doing well on our time.
All right, item number 4, TIF allocation 2023, 2024, 2025.
Okay, so. Um. Oh. So.
Is Dan still on the committee?
No,
He's not. Okay.
he said step down. I think he sent an email. So we'll take one of each of these.
Okay.
Yeah, just too much on his plate, which I will kind of talk about at the end of our meeting here, and then we'll see. We'll be looking at the yellow ones first. So essentially, Justin has asked that this group come up with the allocations for how we want to categorize our TIF revenues. And just to back up a little bit, in the past, the TIF, the Main Street TIF generates about $123,000 a year that goes into our TIF fund. So half of it goes to the general fund and half of it goes to TIF funds. And for the TIF funds, we need to spend that on pre-approved projects that are in our TIF application and have been approved by the state. So when I was trying to do the last amendment to the TIF district and then create the new TIF district that we have out on Route 202, I ran into a lot of problems trying to track where, what categories the money has been spent in. And what Justin told me was that basically, and this isn't necessarily wrong, but it's just a little harder to track. The town traditionally has just kind of spent money that's TIF revenues, and then at the end of the year, go back and put it in the correct slots, or, you know, in the correct expenditure line. So it's kind of a backwards looking, what did we spend this year? Oh, these go in these different buckets. The way this is supposed to work technically is, according to our accountant, is that the town should be allocating the funds into different buckets that then get spent in a more forward-looking way. So what we have here is, and it's a little bit confusing, because what we're really trying to do right now is just put money in categories. We're not saying that this is the money that we expect to spend in if we look at the top one, for example, knowing that the top one is fiscal year 2022 TIF revenues. If you look at the categories on the side, first of all, one problem I have is that those don't necessarily match up to our expenditures that we're allowed to spend. This is something the accountant did. And so it was incredibly confusing for me to be able to keep track of what we've actually spent money on that are TIF allowable expenses. So we're gonna fix that. But the next thing is, if you look at the beginning balance, every year the town has just been taking their TIF revenues and putting them in those different buckets, kind of like different, bank accounts, if you will, and holding on to them as a balance in each category. What we've been asked to do is to take the $120,000 that you can see at the bottom of the additions column for fiscal year 22, which was the amount of TIF revenues that the town collected that year. And basically break those up again into the appropriate categories that we are allowed to spend funds on. So again, keeping in mind that that's not something that we're budgeting or expecting to spend in a particular year, it's just putting money in different categories. I don't know how I feel about that, but again, that's what the accountant has kind of indicated that we should be doing. I think I would prefer to kind of keep the money in a general fund and then each year create a budget that has that lines up what we expect to spend with the allowable expenditures and do it that way. But this is what we have right now. The other thing that we haven't necessarily been keeping track of is, if you recall, in the application, we changed this. For example, if we had professional administrative costs, we said that $30,000 a year from our TIF revenues every year we're going to go into administrative costs. And so this time when I made the amendment, you can do it annually, or you can say during the 30 years of this TIF district, we are going to spend $300,000 out of this category. That gives you way more flexibility. For example, if you have the sidewalk project coming up downtown, that you can front load your money towards that. And then when another expense comes up, instead of trying to keep a consistent amount of money every year going into these accounts, which you may never end up using. And now, as I'm saying this out loud, that's probably why they did it this way, because your TIF was originally set up to say that $30,000 a year goes towards administrative and professional costs, and we can put, $40,000 a year towards streetscape and facade. So I bet that's exactly why actually they did it like that, now that I'm speaking out loud. So who has questions? It was that's a really long, I
I got a
apologize.
ton of questions.
Yeah,
All right, so, and maybe this is just kind of walking through the history here. So I see different categories between fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, and the different category list is due to the revisions that we made, I'm assuming. So for example, the business park fund does not exist in the
Right.
2023 list of categories, and that's because we discontinued the business park category as part of our revision to the TIF district. And so in 2023, I see a transfer in and I see a transfer out of $90,000 that moved down to the professional administration line. And I'm assuming that that's just a simple transfer because we were zeroing out the business park fund at that time.
That sounds right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, I also see a transfer out of 41,225.25 for all 3 years. And I'm assuming that is debt payments on some sidewalks that we did.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so the sidewalk project for Maple Street is that $41,000 withdrawal. Does that make sense? Makes sense. Okay.
Not put out for the North Monmouth or.
Nope. North Monmouth is not in the TIF district.
Yeah, these are just tip funds.
Beach Road.
Beach Road.
Double check.
It might be in the TIF district. I think it might be because, yeah, I think maybe that's debt service for both Maple Street and Beach Road stuff. Yeah. So that would sort of make sense because Maple Street, the TIF district is in that.
Yeah.
Back in, 2013, this was the sort of, we wanted to do some revitalization of the downtown area. So it was kind of focused on that area. All right. And then expenditures in the expenditures column, I don't have a whole lot of questions except to say that there's probably some miscellaneous townwide events. Okay, that's the fireworks display and Apple Fest.
Yeah, Apple Fest and beach party and.
Yeah,
things like that.
okay. And then, professional and administration.
So,
Tell me more about that one. I
So-
see some expenses there, but there was a portion of the fire department and maybe the town manager and
Yes.
economic development costs.
so again, we need to remember that this isn't a budget. This is just allocating funds into different categories.
Yeah,
So my concern, this leads into my concern, is that now we are keeping track of this. If you look on your blue sheet, that's the 2025 expenditures. You can see total allowable expense as our first column. Those are the numbers that we sent to DECD. And that's what we're allowed to spend on that category over the 30 years of the TIF district.
okay,
So, for example, for administrative, whichever one you were just looking at, Kent, I felt like right now, we kind of have enough money in that category that we don't need to necessarily replenish the administrative expenses for Donna and Justin every year, because we have a balance that,
of 62,000. Well,
Yeah.
in 22, it was 62,000. Now it's currently showing at 86,000 is the balance. But here's the question I have. In 2022, we're showing a $22,000 expenditure on professional and administrative category.
that was Justin, myself, the lawyer, because we amended the TIF district that
Okay.
year.
Okay,
Yeah, those could have been, a variety of things related to that.
okay. And then in 2023, that expenditure goes down because there's not a whole lot of changes. That's basically your consulting. And some
I-
portions of the town manager and maybe
Right.
portions of the assessor as well.
Right, and again, that's, I feel like there should be more expenditures than just $11,000 there, but that's what we have, from the accountant.
11,000, I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
I'm sorry, I think that, total 11,800. I feel like there was more that was done in 23 in terms of giving out grants and facade applications and things like that.
Yeah, we might be missing something. That sound a little bit low. Okay,
But-
and then here's another big old question mark for me. And the accountants on the committee here
Yeah,
can
accountants.
double check my mathematical observations here, but the account balance goes, at the end of 2022, the account balance was $570,000. And that $570,000 transfers over to the beginning balance, 23. And at the end of 23, fiscal year 23, the account balance is 634,000. Well, that makes sense. to me. Okay, I get it. So we're accumulating money. And then you flip the page and 634,000 is the beginning balance. But then how come the ending balance goes down?
That would need to be wrong.
Because we didn't spend more than we put in fiscal year 24. So something is askew.
So I think this column it might be this column. I don't know.
Didn't add up.
I don't know which way it was adding the columns, so I'll have to look and see.
Okay, if you could
Yeah.
look into that, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yours would be 691.
You're adding them up?
Yeah.
Okay. That would feel more right because 41, 634 plus 123 minus 41 minus 24 would be the figure that Garrett just mentioned.
So. This additions column. Seems to be switching significantly annually. Is there a particular reason?
Yeah, so what happened, I mean, the original 120,000 in 22 was increased because we had a special revaluation for the CMP property, which was the generator of this TIF district. So the CMP substation, we hired a consultant to go look at it and say, is CMP really paying what they owe the town in terms of valuation? So we hired this specialty person
Assessor, yeah.
to go and check it out, and that generated the additional $15,000
Well,
of revenue.
no, I guess.
Then,
Sorry.
but wait, between 2023 and 2024, I'm told by the town manager that there was a reduction in our ability. We had to pay a penalty to the state. It wasn't actually a penalty. We didn't pay a penalty. We were assessed a penalty because our valuations were 17 years out of date. And so we could not.
Couldn't realize everything that we wanted to within the.
Because this is the reason we're going through a reassessment for next fiscal year, is that we are starting to be assessed penalties because our valuations in general,
Right. Well, I guess
including the homestead exemption, by the way, that any homestead exemption person collects, we're being assessed we're not allowed to, it's not really a penalty, we're just not allowed to recognize the assessment savings. That's a nice way of saying it.
So my question is, so if we're looking at this as almost like annual additions to each project that's approved under the TIF district, shouldn't it be prorated equally every year? Why is it 87,000 one year, the one project, if this is the way they want to think about it? But only 18,000 the year before.
Well, so when you're looking at end balance, I guess the question, I think, so as we've had this discussion, I feel like I need to go back to Justin and tell him that this is out of date now, because the way that we are keeping track of the TIF district no longer requires us to put $30,000 a year into each, or whatever we had, into each category. So I think that's what's really affecting this conversation right now. It should be that there is a kind of a general fund in the TIF district, and then,
Yeah, yeah, I'm following that. I'm just saying, look, why? What does it, what, if they're asking us to categorize what these should be classified under, what's an addition? So.
that was just the dividing up of the TIF revenues, just to put them somewhere, was basically what I was told. Because again, they couldn't just be in a general fund. In the past, they have been allocated based on
Whatever the 30-year
whatever that,
plan.
yeah,
is,
whatever that annual
That would be the
assessment
budget.
was. And so they're still trying to,
Yeah.
I'm totally figuring this out what we're talking, so they're still trying to do that now, and we don't need to do that anymore,
So-
because,
We're just gonna take all of this and put it into a fund, is what you're saying.
yes, and what,
Yeah.
and then what I think we should do as a committee is come up with a budget, even though it's a little late, just to start for fiscal year 25, to kind of predict where the TIF or allocate where the TIF revenues can be spent. And again, the goal would be to be taking expenses that the general fund usually pays for and saying, oh, TIF funds can be used for that because those are, you know,
Could be
more,
lumpy. It could be lumpy where it's needed one year somewhere and it's needed somewhere else another year. Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, there's in this list of categories, we have no mention of townwide trails
so this is going to be the new
set of categories.
set of categories. This
Yes.
actually shows all of the categories, and I shortened them, but these are the actual. I couldn't fit them all here and get this all on one page, so downtown area project property acquisition is up here, property acquisition, and then if you needed to read what the whole category was, it's down here, but for the most part, we can then see what the total allowable expense is for that. And then, we shouldn't need to have balances anymore. We should just have the budget for the
Max-
year.
More of a maximum.
Right, yeah, maybe that would be even be better, just to have, you know, this is what we're saying we expect to spend for fiscal year 25. Does that make sense, Ken?
So how do we determine what that maximum in any given year would be though, like
Well,
by category? And
Yeah.
Just a percentage of the total for 30 years or?
we can do it a couple of different ways. Like, for example, I know Dennis has already told me about the Trails project behind Cumston Hall that they, you know, want to move on and have the quote for and everything else. So that would be a you know, that's something we would put in the budget in the event that that actually went through and approved at the select board level. That would be something that we could allocate the funds towards.
What do they want? They want us to categorize these categories in what here?
What we're going to do now is just put this away. Reagan's gonna go talk to Justin about how we should be doing this now that we have changed. So thank you for walking through that with me.
So do I hear a motion to table this matter to another meeting?
So move.
And we have a second from Garrett, because he hasn't seconded anything yet today. So a motion from Doug and a second from Garrett. And with the tabling motion, there is no discussion. All those in favor? Okay, item number 5.
Other business, and I know we need to get out of here pretty quickly.
Yeah. that's right.
But
We can make him sit in the lobby for 10 minutes.
the only other thing I had under other business is that you may or may not be aware that one of the ideas that we had when we were doing our planning session included marketing for the town. And Dennis has, and we had actually even named Dennis as someone who might be able to fill that role of just pushing communication out to people and businesses in the town the town has contracted with Dennis to do that for an additional 10 hours a week. And so, is it 10 hours a week? Some period of time. And, one of the things he's going to do are quarterly newsletters. Each department gets a page supposedly. And so I was planning on putting in our different business tools to let people know about them. So the TIF districts, the facade improvement program, the revolving loan fund, and also asking or inviting people to apply to be on this committee. Because we've lost a couple of people, so. But I didn't know.
Anyone want to be vice chair?
It's a real finance guy over here.
All right.
My wife's doing a month.
Me already, you know, you wanna go down that road?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I can be vice.
Okay,
Okay,
wonderful.
As long as it's voted in.
sure. Do I hear a motion to appoint
Yes.
Second.
Garrett as vice
Yeah.
chair with a second? All those in favor, you can abstain. There we go.
Oh,
Sorry.
I don't know how. Ken
Sorry,
got
Dan.
that in. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry,
I'm just not
Dan.
gonna tell my wife. She doesn't watch these meetings.
Not watching us right now.
So anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of that, and if you think of anything, economic development related that you think I should include in my summary to Dennis, you can let me know in the next day or so, and I'll add that in, but I'm excited about that, and again, I think, you know, that was something that we had talked about in this group, and communication was something that was really important to improve upon, so hopefully this will be something that is
Yeah, we need
is
more
good for
than
the
4
town.
members because, you know, if we ever got into a friendly disagreement, it could be a 2-2 tie.
That's happened tonight, yeah.
So,
We're all such reasonable people. Come on.
yeah, that's right.
So it's a digital newsletter? Is that what it
I
is?
think it's a digital, and I think there's gonna be some print. I suggested that he might want to perform the newsletter, and he said that wasn't outside of the scope. Would that be fun?
Put it on video and then. yeah.
Totally perform it. So anyway,
Exactly.
so yeah, we'll see what he does with it. I'm sure he's an incredibly creative person, so I'm sure he'll find some fun things to do.
All right. This came up at the Conservation Commission meeting this morning too, just people
Oh,
are
good.
excited. about
Just,
this newsletter.
he's gotta keep it clean.
I know. Oh, yeah, definitely.
He goes into the school, you know,
Okay.
can make good jokes.
All right, any other business? Any other business?
All the other stuff that's going on in town, the development, the solar farm, the 65 acres or whatever it is over here on Main Street.
Oh.
Yeah, those are all planning board matters,
Yeah, and they're all in the works somehow.
Yeah.
but nothing that relates to
No.
economic development. I should say, in this meeting, just so the folks are aware, I already mentioned it at the Trails Committee meeting. The comprehensive planning process continues. And it was suggested at a select board meeting that we recommend that there be no language in the comprehensive plan that would preclude the town from, in the next 10 years, enacting a zoning ordinance instead of the comprehensive development ordinance that we have right now. It would complement the comprehensive development ordinance that we have right now. And so, the select board made, a motion that carried to pass the comprehensive plan process to ensure that there is no language that would prevent that from occurring if it were decided at some point in the future.
Was there language in the last plan?
There was.
Oh,
There was. was, and it was kind of controversial. But it seemed to me like it's kind of sunk in to the select board and the townsfolk. Um, that there, you know, the development train is on its tracks. And as a, community that's conveniently located between two significant hubs, Augusta and, Lewiston, that, we might,
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
See a lot of
I know
development
zoning's always been
standards.
very controversial and been shot down every time it's been proposed.
It has. And,
I
and
mean,
it
we're
may
doing,
be,
like, we have maps in our, like, I'm on the comp plan committee, and like, you know, so,
it may be, shot down again.
yeah.
But at least, there would be nothing in the comprehensive plan that would prevent folks from considering it.
But you guys aren't suggesting that the comp plan proposed zoning
Nope.
this go around?
No, we're just saying do nothing that would prevent it.
Okay.
From happening if that were discussed at some point in the next 10 years.
Good to know.
Okay. All right, I'm getting a hairy eyeball from the chair of the Trails Committee. Are we ready to adjourn?
Should be adjourned.
Here we go. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned at 6:57, just in time. Look at the,
Yes, thank you.
I would like everyone to observe the meeting room space utilization efficiency.
Yes.
One thing's back.
Yeah, if you can just, let's just make sure that those don't exist anymore. How's that?
Yeah.
Now that we've gone through that whole exercise.
All right, I'm gonna actually kill this meeting, so
Yes.
we do it for.
Our new meeting?
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about tonight at the Trails Committee? A lot.
All sorts of
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was nice. But,